Morrison here. In today's tutorial, we will take a close look at the stitches and techniques that you need to master to be able to crochet this great casual garment called the Easy Breezy Topper, designed by talented Margaret Hubert. Just two simple rectangles crocheted in lacy stitches makes this fun top not only easy to crochet, but a cinch to wear over cool linen pants or shorts. Together we will take a close look at the stitch you need to master, as well as the construction and some of the other things good to know when stitching this top. So to make this pattern, you will need a DK lightweight yarn. Margaret was using a soft bamboo and cotton mix yarn from Premier called Bamboo Fair. And to get the gauge, she was using a G 4mm crochet hook. I will use a little bit thicker yarn here today for my sample, and I'm using a J hook so that everything will show up better here on camera. When you're using the DK weight yarn, it takes a total of 6 to 8 balls depending on your size, which is something between 1,600 and 2,200 yards. And with all the colors available, maybe you will pick another color that go with your wardrobe, but I must say I do love the natural color used in the original. So this garment is built by working two of these rectangular pieces identical. You're going to start out here along the front edge, and you're going to work the border back and forth, and then you're going to work the shell pattern, and you're going to end your piece out here. So you'll make two of these identical, and then we can take a look over here where these pieces are placed next to each other with those front borders facing each other. And to assembly, you will seam one seam here where you join the pieces, leave an opening for the neck, and then you will also seam it here in the front. Then you will fold the piece here up on the shoulders, and you will seam this side to this side and this side to this side to close up the sides. So to begin with, we are going to work a loose chain band. So we start by putting a slip knot on our hook, and then we will chain the number of stitches in the pattern. But I'm making a smaller sample here today, so I will start by chaining a smaller number of stitches. So you chain by just pulling the working yarn through the loop on your hook. And just make sure not to go tight because we are going to work into those stitches and we don't want the edge to be tight. So you keep working until you have reached a total of 201 stitches. But I will now stop here just to be able to show you what it means when it explains to work the foundation row. So for the foundation row, we're going to start working into the third chain from the hook. So you're counting 1, 2, and 3. And then we are working into the back bar, so not into these front loops, but we'll turn the chain band around so that in the back here of each stitch, you can see these little bumps here. We're going to work into the bump in the back of the stitch, and we're going to start working in the third one. So we have the third stitch and we have the bump there in the back, and we are going to start working double crochet stitches in each of these bumps across. So to work a double crochet, we will wrap the yarn around the hook, then go into that bump and just into that horizontal bar only, and just put the working yarn around your hook and pull it through so that you have 3 loops on your hook. Then yarn over, go through your first 2 loops, and yarn over and go through your second 2 loops. So that's our first double crochet. And now you can also see that these chains that we turned with, they have the height of a double crochet, and so they will count for as our first double crochet, and now the double crochet we made is our second. And we will make another one because we're going to work double crochet in each stitch across. So remember to turn the band slightly towards you so that you can see these bumps here in the back. And you go down and under and up again, and then bring out the working yarn. Yarn over, go through the first two, and yarn over and go through the second two. So now by working here into these back bumps or into the back bar of the chain stitches, you see how we have these two loops on each stitch still here at the bottom. So that's creating a really pretty edge here at the bottom of our piece. So this is now how we will keep working in every single chain stitch all the way across. Working our double crochets just this way. And you have a lot more stitches than I do here today, so take your time and come back once you have reached the end of your chain band, and I'll show you then how we'll turn and keep working on our border. So I'm nearing the end of my chain band, making sure to work in each of these last bumps. And that's my last one. So this is your foundation row, the way it looks like here from the right side. And now we will turn around to work row 1. And to turn around, you simply turn your piece so that you can start working from the opposite side, and you will start row 1 with the chain 3. So that's chain 1, chain 2, and chain 3. So you see they come out here from the first stitch. So that means that they replace the first double crochet on this row, and now we're going to work double crochet in each of these double crochets all the way across. So to work my first double crochet, you don't work into the stitch your chain 3 are coming out from, but you make sure to go into your next one. And now we're going to work through both these two top loops on each stitch. So go through the first 2 loops there for your first double crochet, and then work the same way in each stitch all the way across. So you'll just work all the way the same way with double crochet. So this border is built up with double crochet stitches back and forth. So we'll just work to the end here on my little sample to show you how we'll work coming towards the end. So you see here now I have 2 more double crochets, and then I have these turning chains that we turned with. So we'll make sure to put a double crochet in each of these last 2. And then we also will work into the top of these turning chain stitches. So wrap the yarn around your hook, go into that top chain, bring through the working yarn, and then work your double crochet here in the last stitch. So if you're unsure, you can always double count your stitches once you finished a row, and the double crochet stitches should be a total of 199 stitches for you across. So now we're just going to keep repeating this last row. We will chain 3 here at the beginning of next row. Make sure to not put a stitch into that first one, but go into the second one and work our double crochet. So this is now how you keep working back and forth until your border measures a total of 3 inches. So do that work and I'll meet you again once we have finished our border up to the 3 inches. My border is measuring 3 inches and it took me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows to get there. And with that, I'm now ready to start working the pattern stitch. So take a look at that section of the pattern. It says shell pattern and it starts with row 1. So to start, we are starting to work a chain 3. And then we'll work a double crochet in the next double crochet. Then you see a little star, and that means that the next section is going to be a section that we are to be repeating. So let's work the first repeat here now. It tells us to skip the next double crochet and then work a shell in the next double crochet. And right above there, it tells us how to work a shell. So a shell is 4 double crochets, chain 2, and a double in the same stitch. So working there into that next one, we'll work 4 double crochets. So 1, 2, 3, still into the same stitch, and 4. And we're not done with the shell yet. We're going to chain 2. And then we'll work another double crochet still in the same double crochet stitch. So there we have our first shell. Back in the pattern, it tells us to skip the next 3 double crochets and then work a double crochet in each of the next 5. So make sure you skip all 3 and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that ends our first repetition. So if we take a look here now what that repetition looks like, we're skipping a stitch, working a shell into the next stitch, then skipping 3 stitches. If I spread them out, you can see it's 3, and then a double in each of the next 5. So let's do that together again. We'll go back to the beginning of the star, skip the next, and work a shell in the next. So we'll start with those 4 double crochet stitches. 2, 3, and 4, and then chain 2, and then double crochet in the same stitch. Then skip 1, 2, 3, and work a double in each of the next 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this is what the repetitions looks like, and you will be repeating that all the way across. So keep working and meet me again when we are reaching the end of the row. So now I'm at the end of row 1. So I'm skipping the next 3 and then working a double crochet in each of these last 2 stitches, which is a double crochet and then the top of the chain 3 that we have in the beginning of our previous row. So a double crochet there, and that finishes off our first row of the pattern stitch. So you have a row looking like this with 2 double crochets in each end, and then you have all these shells across with 5 double crochets between each. and we'll now turn, and we are ready to start working our second row. So for the second row, it starts with the chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then we're not working into the first one, but here into the second double crochet, we will put a double crochet. And then row 2 has a star that tells us to start a repetition. So we'll start with a shell in the chain 2 space of the next shell. So that's here where we will be working another shell. So that's 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, 3 double crochet, and 4 double crochet that I work right into that space. And then I'll chain 2, and I will work a double crochet into that same space. So there you have a shell worked into the chain 2 space of the shell below. So then we'll skip these 4 double crochets and we'll work a double crochet in each of the next 5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there we have the full repetition. So you have a shell, and then you're skipping the 4 double crochets here below, and then a double crochet in each of these 5 double crochets below. So this is what we'll now repeat all the way across. So in the next chain space, we'll work our next shell. So 2, 3, and 4, chain 2, and then a double crochet in the same space. Skip 4, double crochet in each of the next 5, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So that was my second repetition, and now you will repeat this all the way across until you reach the end of your row, and I'm already there here on my little sample. So I'll put another shell here in the last chain 2 space, 2, 3, 4, chain 2, a double crochet in the same space, and then skip 4, and now we have 2 stitches here at the end of the row, so we'll put a double crochet in the next to last, and then a double crochet at the top here of the chain 3 from beginning of previous row. So this ends row 2 of our pattern, and now row 2 is the row that we will just be repeating and repeating and repeating until our whole piece measures somewhere between 16 to 21 inches, depending on which size you're making. So for row 2 now to be repeated, it means that we start the next row exactly the same way with the chain 3, a double crochet into the next double crochet, and then chains a shell in the chain space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, chain 2, and a double in the same space. Skip these next 4, and then a double crochet here in these next 5 double crochet stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So there we have now our next repetition, and you'll start seeing how the pattern builds with these 5 double crochets in between each section of these shell stitches that's gonna go up in a column like this. So keep repeating row 2 until you reach the finished measurement. So I've been working a couple of more rows here back and forth with the lace texture, and now you can clearly see the pattern here, and you've kept working until the finished measurement. So at this point, all we can do here now is to fasten off. So fasten off, and I like to secure that tail by pulling it through my last stitch and then tighten. So there we have our finished piece, and now you will work one more identical, exactly the same size and same number of rows. I'll meet you again when both pieces are finished. So once both your pieces are finished, you're going to line them up to start seaming the front seam, both from the bottom and up and from the opposite side and up, leaving an opening for the neck here in the center. So the pattern tells us to measure a total of 17 inches up and place a marker. So you'll just make sure that these two ends have the same length. Then you'll grab a darning needle and a strand of the yarn, and we'll start here down at the bottom. So you'll go into the edge stitch on one of the pieces and then into the edge stitch here on the opposite piece. So you see here now how I have lined up these nice looking chain band stitches so that they both face towards me and have a pretty edge. And now to keep that edge, I will be seaming back and forth in this outer loop. So see how I go into the outer loop of the two loops on this piece and then outer loop on the opposite piece. So I will be seaming back and forth this way. I'm going to bring it a little bit closer so that you can see how I go into the next stitch, outer loop on this side, next on the opposite side, and also in the outer loop. So not tight, but just keep let's see here now. Don't tighten. We'll just work softly back and forth between these outer loops. Until we reach the marker. So it might be that the markers are not perfectly placed in the stitches on each side. So we'll see which marker we end up reaching first, and that's where I'll stop. So I've reached my markers and I came to the same stitch pair on each side here. So what I'll do is that I will run the strand one more time through those two stitches to really secure. Then I will run it to the back. And here on the back, I will weave it in. So I will go through these stitch loops here in the back, first in one direction, and then to really secure, I'm going to skip the last stitch that I went through and then go back a couple of stitches in the opposite direction. like that, and that should be secure enough. So I'll fasten off. And now you can see how nicely these sides are joined. And we'll do the same thing here. You'll just, again, take a measure. It tells you to measure 16 inches over in this side, and then just seam it together here too, leaving a neck opening. And once you are done seaming this center, you're going to simply fold your piece. And now, of course, I just have a smaller sample here, but once you have folded, so you have the shoulder up here and the opening at the bottom, you will be seaming here from the bottom and up, leaving a little bit of an armhole here based on the measurements that the measure chart gives you. So same thing here, I'll join in the bottom stitch on this piece, and I'll go join over also in the opposite side, and then I'll run through the same stitches one more time to secure. And then there are different ways here now to be seaming depending on what look you want, but I will again just go into the outer loops this time of the edge stitches. So just working my way back and forth from side to side in the edge stitches to seam together the side here. So keep stitching the number of inches that the pattern tells you, and once you're done, you'll go through the same stitch pair one more time to secure, and then go back to the wrong side of work, and same thing again. I usually go through a couple of stitches one way, then I skip the last one I went through and go through a couple of stitches the opposite way to secure, and then I can fasten off. And there you have a little armhole, and of course your piece is bigger than mine, but this is the idea of how to work this piece. Isn't this a really great top? I just love the comfortable look. A topper I easily can see myself wearing in many different situations, at home, at work, even on the beach. And now when you know how to make it, you might end up making one for yourself too. I'm Lina Skvagersson. Thank you for joining me today.